I'm sure you're probably familiar by now with the story of the Iranian oil tanker that was stopped in Gibraltar at the request of U.S. authorities. Now, the ship was boarded by UK Royal Marines, etc., and held because the United States made the claim that it was illegally carrying oil to Syria in violation of EU sanctions. Of course, Iran's not a part of the EU, and thus, as a result, isn't actually obligated to follow EU sanctions. So it was stopped by the request of the United States, and the Gibraltar court found the United States presented no evidence whatsoever that the accusation against the Iranian ship was true. So as a result of that, they ordered the release of the ship. Now, less than 24 hours later, the United States filed another warrant for the ship to be stopped. However, it has been reported as of Sunday morning, our time, that the court has completely rejected the claim by the United States. They've just thrown it out, and the ship will now be released. I think there's something significant here. Even now, the long-standing allies of the United States are getting fed up with the way that the U.S. acts. Basically, Gibraltar, rather than just simply doing whatever the United States tells it, which would have been something that's more likely to have happened in another case, didn't in this because of the way the United States has been acting. Look at all the trade wars they've pushed out, the bullying that Donald Trump has carried out during his presidency, which is just more forward than what has been done in the past with previous presidents. Now consider this. For all the sanctions, for all the sanctions and whatnot that they have put on Iran as a result of the accusation that Iran violated the nuclear agreement, which they have not presented any evidence of whatsoever, they threatened the allies. They threatened the other members of the nuclear agreement, the European signatories, that if anybody were to continue doing business with Iran, which they were legally allowed to do and obligated to do to make up for the loss of the United States, which was part of the nuclear agreement. If the United States was to pull out, the European signatories would make up for the loss of trade. The U.S. decided they were going to punish any company that did. Now, there was a multi-billion-dollar deal about to go through with a French energy company called Total to develop the South Pars gas field. That would be the liquefied natural gas fields that is shared by Iran and also, I believe, Qatar. So they had to pull out because they were afraid of being sanctioned by the U.S. for not going along with sanctions that were not only illegal, shouldn't have even applied to Iran shouldn't have applied to France anyway. So now China has stepped in. Now, China has announced that they're going to be carrying out a business deal to develop the South Pars gas field with Iran. Now, why is that important? Well, aside from the fact that it shows increasing cooperation by people who are being marginalized by the United States, it means there's going to be a lot of Chinese ships flowing into the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the U.S. and the U.K. have already sent warships into the area to patrol the area in order to protect their ships from being seized. Of course, if they don't like their ships being seized, then one, they should follow the maritime law that they're obligated to follow, and could consider not seizing other people's ships. Okay. So the U.S. is sending warships into the area and is trying to get Israel to send one as well, which would be the most antagonistic move possible. So now China is going to be sending a lot of ships into the area. And if you decide that you're going to stop a Chinese ship, you're going to get some real-time Chinese retaliation. So what we had before was simply a standoff between Iran, the United States, with the UK behind them in order to bully Iran. But now China's going to be involved in this. And, well, let's just say China's not as easy to bully as someone like Iran. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So now, what is this all about again? This is, again, all about energy resources. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to remember what, oil politics and how energy resources run the world, the petrodollar, etc., all that. What's interesting here is the fact that Chinese ships are going to be coming in, and there's going to be a lot of Chinese ships coming in close contact with U.S. warships and UK warships. And this it's throwing more fuel onto a campfire while there's still someone playing with matches there. I mean, it's just the potential for what is going on for this to spark off, it's going to be worse. I mean, there's already a possibility it could have sparked off before, but now if it sparks off, it's going to be even worse because China is going to be involved. Because I think that we've reached the point where China has just friggin' had it. Everybody has just completely had it. The U.S. is talking about sending ships to blockade China, and Venezuela basically suggested that they were going to shoot those ships down if they come in. Iran said, that's it. We're not going to come to the negotiation table for another nuclear deal unless you release the sanctions from us. Whereas they were willing to freely negotiate before. China is now talking about using the nuclear option in terms of dealing with tariffs on the country, and that being selling off significant portions of the U.S. debt, which would hurt the U.S. economy significantly. Everybody has had enough of Donald Trump's actions. And a lot of them are getting very, very close, and in terms of China, is already at that red line where they've just absolutely had enough and are willing to deal some serious damage to the U.S. rather than the strategic patience that they have had before. So I think all of these things combined, we're looking at a very dangerous time in the history of the U.S., and I think that in the future, people are going to look back on this and really do see that Trump was quite possibly the worst president that ever existed. I mean, he's the only one who's ever been the president who's never done the job of a president. If you get what I'm saying, like, he isn't acting like a president. He isn't doing what a president does. He does what a petty tyrant, dictator, businessman would do. He's not running the country like a country. He's running it like his own personal business. And running a country is not the same as running a business. Because running a country has a tremendous, political aspect to it. And, that whole thing about how the president and the political establishment is supposed to serve the public, not brutalize it for exploitation.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.